because I'm 50% Greek and 100% a geek. I know this movie hasn't been getting the best reviews from critics, but is it as bad as they're saying? No, but is it a good X-Men movie? Let's find out. On a mission to space, Jean Grey comes into contact with the Phoenix Force, even though I thought she already had the Phoenix Force. She absorbs it and basically becomes a big pain in the butt for everyone around her. So we all know the cast and the characters by now. It doesn't really introduce anyone really that new, but I'll get into that. Of course, James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, they're phenomenal as always. I really enjoy their performances as Professor Xavier and Magneto. Xavier is a bit more of an asshole in this movie. Not at all like the Patrick Stewart version that's in X-Men in 2000 and later movies, but it's more kind of, he's being a bit more egotistical and he wants to be kind of accepted by the public, and he likes this position that he's in now where everyone kind of accepts him, and he's being a bit more of a dick and being a bit egotistical, which is kind of more in line with how he is in the comics. Everyone else does a pretty good job as well, but you can kind of tell that Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique is really over these movies by now. Even just the makeup for her, she looks nothing like what Mystique did in previous movies. She doesn't even look like how she did in the last couple of movies. It's just lazy, and you can tell that she's kind of phoning it in at this point. And the only really new character we have is Vuk, or Vuk. I don't even know how to pronounce her name. Vuk. She's played by Jessica Chastain, and essentially she's just basically the devil on Jean's shoulder to tell her to do naughty things, essentially. And she does so in an extremely monotone voice and with no expression. I think that's what they were going for with her character, not to have any kind of emotion or anything like that, but it's pretty bland.
Who are you? The better question is, who are you?
So going against basically the tone of every single movie leading up to this, the X-Men, well, they can be an allegory for any kind of minority or any kind of people that are being oppressed, essentially. No longer the case. The X-Men in this, and the mutants, I guess, are basically celebrities, and no one seems to care about them being mutants anymore, which was a very important thing in most of the X-Men comics, to my knowledge, and the movies, but now they just accept them as celebrities. Professor Xavier even talks about it in this movie that it won't take much for humanity to turn against the mutants again. And some stuff does go down, but humanity never does turn against the mutants again. They just still accept them as heroes, I guess. Or maybe they don't. We just don't see it. So I guess in the future, mutants will be accepted because they've completely changed the timeline anyway. So this franchise is a mess.
Are you threatening me?
That's right.
That would be a bad idea.
Action scenes, they're pretty good. It's a superhero movie. It's an X-Men movie. So, of course, seeing people with superpowers fighting each other and that's always entertaining to see. That opening scene where the X-Men go into space to save the astronauts, that was a really good scene. Seeing all the X-Men with their different powers being used in different circumstances to try and save the people. So actually seeing them do heroic things, that was a nice change of pace instead of just punching and blasting people with laser beams. Seeing Magneto bend metal and the things that he can do with metal, that's always entertaining to see as well. And Nightcrawler actually does, Nightcrawler things that he did in the second X-Men movie. Remember that scene where he infiltrates the White House and takes out all the security in that epic scene? There's a scene or two that's very similar to that, and that was really good. So Nightcrawler is back to being a badass. And you probably heard as well that the end fight scene was going to take place on train as opposed to in space, because apparently it was going to be too similar to Captain Marvel's ending, so they changed it to a train. I didn't really like this news. I thought it would be really dull on a train, but it was actually the best fight scene or action scene in the entire movie, and that really surprised me. So, which makes me think how epic would the battle in space would have been instead. But we got what we got, and it was pretty good for what it was.
You want to believe people are something that they are not.
Going into this movie, I had no idea who composed the music, and then we got to the end of the movie, the credits started rolling, and then I saw Hans Zimmer's name, and I'm like, Of course it was. That's why it was an epic soundtrack. Now, I didn't think that Hans Zimmer was going to do superhero movies again. I swear I've read that he wasn't going to do superhero movies anymore after Justice League. But I guess he just changed his mind, or that paycheck was just too good to give up. There was a particular favorite theme that I had. I can't remember what it's called. I'll leave a link in the description if I find it. It's a theme that they used when the X-Men were going up into space to save them. I think they used that theme quite a few times, and it probably was a bit overused. Or maybe the themes felt a bit similar, and maybe that's why I thought the same one was playing over and over again. But I swear they used the same theme 3 or 4 or 5 times.
And what they don't understand, what they fear, and what they fear, we seek to destroy.
Now, I'm not the best person to say whether this is a good adaptation of the Phoenix Saga, but I do know that the Phoenix Saga is a saga, so it takes place over a few issues in the comics. So this takes place over one movie, like in The Last Stand. So it does feel a bit rushed. It definitely focuses a lot more on the characters. It's a very, very small scale as opposed to the galactic scale that takes place in the comics. This is just on Earth in a very, very small part of America.
She's coming.
Is this a good sequel? I'm not really sure, honestly. This movie isn't as bad as what the critics are saying. There are enjoyable moments in that, but I really wish that the X-Men saga ended on a higher note. This franchise has had some highs and some lows, but I would have liked to go out with a bit of a bigger bang. I know that the New Mutants movie is supposed to come out next year, and that takes place in the same universe, but this is the last one that we're going to see with the original characters of the X-Men comics. So the pros, I enjoyed the music, the themes that were used in the movie. The action is pretty good. I really enjoyed James McAvoy's and Michael Fassbender's performance as usual. Everyone else does a pretty good job. The things I didn't like, the theme doesn't really line up with how the theme has been in the previous movies, which has been something in the forefront of previous movies now. It's been turned on its head, essentially. Pretty poor performances from some people. Jennifer Lawrence. It tries to cram the whole Phoenix Saga into one movie, and it does not fit very well, and I think this is a pretty poor way to end the X-Men franchise. But I would be very curious to know what you thought about the movie. Please comment below and let me know what you thought about it. If you're new to my channel, I do talk about these kind of movies a lot. Superheroes, sci-fi, fantasy, monster movies. Those are my jam. So if you hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to stay updated for my future videos, that would be great. As always, thank you for watching me ramble on about a movie for a few minutes. I do appreciate it. Thank you again, and I'll catch you next time.